What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Stocks by the Numbers, and I wanted to do another idea that I came up with, a little short-term trade idea that I think I have setting up here nicely for us, and I just wanted to go over it quickly with you guys. And name of the company in question is Walmart Incorporated, ticker symbol WMT, listed here on the New York Stock Exchange. Company closed at $154.10 a share, up a little over a dollar, about 2/3% here on the day. The company is right near these 52-week highs and has actually tested that level multiple times, going into the 154 range and then having a slight pullback. So the company probably, in my opinion, is ready to break out. And obviously this is an old chart I'm just looking at real quick here, and you can see that obviously over time the stock has done phenomenally well. I drew out these multiple different trend lines off of certain tops and bottoms just to try to give myself a little idea of what potential direction we can have moving forward. And obviously if we zoom in here, you can see multiple projectional patterns setting up for themselves. Even this one, if it stays here, the stock's right around here. If it stays in this wedge and climbs up, you can see the stock will probably climb into like the high 160s, potentially even low 170s, and then we may have the potential to go into that apex of that rising wedge and have a pullback, maybe down here to like the mid 140s here, and then we can bounce. But then of course that'll be in another ascending wedge potentially. Of course, these are all just random technical projections that I'm throwing out here, and then you can have a pullback here into the 140 range perhaps, and then it could bounce up and climb into this. But as you see, these are much longer term. Random motorcycle going by. These are much longer term. As you can see, this is April of 2024 around this apex here. So about 10 months from now. This apex is October of 25 around that time, and down here we're into 2028. So obviously this is nothing you really have to concern yourself with right now. But again, I just wanted to draw out some of these trend lines just to see where it's been, where it could go, what some of the highs are, what some of the lows are. And again, you can see, coming off the lows here, I went one off the low. And then this was like the high right after the IPO, and then like the next high that it hit. So I drew a trend line across that. And just coming here at the high, drew a trend line there, and you can see a lot of these trend lines are now lining up because the stock, even though it is slightly climbing higher, is doing it very slowly, and it's almost at a complete flatten now. So you can see that now it looks like it's bouncing off of multiple of these trend lines here. However, more importantly, again, this is a shorter term trade idea. So I just want to come in here. Where are we? Looking at about 1 year chart here. Right now for about, what is this? Yeah, we're going back about a year ago, the end of May last year. This is the last time the company took a chunk down. Missed on the EPS side, beat on the revenue side, and they, crashed the stock down from like mid 140s all the way down to the high 1-teens. And basically from that initial high on the gap down to the low that it made, drawing those trend lines out over the course of about the last 12 months, you can see that we are in like this long-term trumpet pattern. So again, the trumpet means Wall Street is kind of unsure whether the stock is going to go up, down, or sideways. However, here in the shorter term, I want to show you, 1 month chart. 1 month chart, you can see again the stock was pulling back here going into earnings on anticipation of light numbers, and you see that the stock comes in and the company beats on the top and bottom lines. Very profitable in this quarter here, 11.5% above estimates, and here beating revenue estimates, by over 3.3 billion. That's definitely nothing to sneeze at. So the company really is bringing in good numbers here. And since this earnings, again, it popped up there on those numbers and then slowly pulled back and is kind of rebounding now. And this is why this is very interesting, because in my opinion, first of all, this almost looked like a handle going into the cup. You almost had the handle first, but however, it's called the cup and handle pattern for a reason, right? So you have your cup here, in my opinion, what looks like a cup, and then you have your potential handle starting here. I even drew out these trend lines here. If we zoom, well, actually, we'll get to that in a second. But more importantly, you can see that, again, this is just a prediction. This is just my path here, my prediction of what is going to potentially happen. And as you see here, if we get here, you're looking at maybe like about a week and a half. So, again, just a short-term trade idea, because it does look like, again, after hitting these highs, that it is going to, try to soften up and sell off and consolidate a little bit. So that's why looking like a cup and then drawing out a potential handle here looks like it may be the right path for WMT right now. And of course, more important, this is going back, June. So if we go back just a few days, look here, and you can see the way it jumped up here on the 5th and ran up to these highs, and then it pulled back here to these lows, and it's been in this tight little uptrend like a lot of other stocks we've seen over the course of the last, like 5, 6, 7 trading days here. And of course, if that pattern continues, then obviously it's going to run into the apex here on the rising wedge, and then it's going to pull back and drop down. However, if the cup and handle pattern is actually coming to fruition, then it will break here again at, what are we at, like 154 and a quarter, maybe 154 and a half, and then boom, it'll break down again to like 153 or the high 152s, and it'll probably bounce, in my opinion, and begin to just stagger up and down inside of that handle. Now again, this is just a projection, but I did notice that it does look like we have a big cup happening here over basically the last month since the last earnings report. So we have our cup, and we have our ascending wedge dropping down into our projected candle, and you can see the path. It'll bounce up and down around that handle and then break out, which will give us probably new 52-week highs. And in my opinion, it is deserved, actually, with a company like Walmart here, just to quickly get into the numbers, because again, as we see, we didn't have that 1 week profitable quarter. However, all of the quarters, basically before and after that, I mean, you're basically seeing nothing but green here. And again, this was, again, it's not on the revenue side. It's always slightly on the profitability side. That was back in 2020, for the period ending 2020. And you can see, look at this. All right, so this was the worst quarter for the company, and it was the quarter, look at this, period ending January of 2020, right? So it was the quarter that ended before COVID even started, right? And then you go into the COVID quarters, and you can see, of course, Walmart, one of the few companies who you would think was doing very well as soon as the shit hit the fan, right? All of these, major retail stores, and you had your, what do you call it? Your wholesalers, obviously, you had your Costco's and whatnot. Those companies were extremely busy. They were packed. All the shelves were empty. People were going there every day, sometimes multiple times a day, to grab food and supplies for their family. And it was, in my opinion, it was hilarious. But we're not going to get into that now. But right now, again, you can see, in my opinion, going back about a month, we have our cup and handle pattern. But again, I do think it's going to break out because we have a market cap here of about 415 billion, we'll call it. The company's paying out a dividend yield of about 1.5% with a PE close to about 37. Now, it could be considered kind of high, 37 PE. However, again, $415 billion market cap, and if we come down here, the company did over $600 billion last year in annual revenue. Right, so this is what I'm saying. Like, when we look at certain companies like our Teslas and like our Nvidias, people consistently try to act like it's justified that these companies could trade at an insane multiple market cap to yearly revenue comparison. And then you look at a brand name staple like Walmart that we looked at the all chart, right? So over the years consistently grows in stock price, in stock value. So again, over the years you can see here was the low 500 billions and then just consistently jumped up and increased that revenue year over year, almost about $5.25 billion, and now you're up here, look, 550 billion, 570 billion, now above 600 billion. So the company is going to consistently increase its business and increase its revenue, plus it's paying you a dividend to own it. So that's why when you look at certain companies like a GT, Goodyear Tire, when we look at the annual revenue and then we look at the market cap comparison, that's how we know, in my opinion anyway, that we have an undervalued stock, especially in the numbers. And a situation like Walmart here, I mean, this company could easily trade in line with its yearly annual revenue here, which again, 600 million, market cap right now, 415 billion, excuse me. So you're talking about 50% upside from this level here. So this stock could very well easily run up to, the 200s. Probably not going to happen anytime soon. Probably going to take several years to get there. But again, it is most likely going to be justified. So in the numbers, in my opinion, this stock is actually undervalued when compared to a lot of other companies. I just did a video on Apple talking about a potential short-term trade idea similar here with a rising wedge getting ready for a pullback and a sell-off. Apple's trading like 8 times yearly revenue. Imagine if Walmart did that. Walmart's trading less than 1 times yearly revenue. They are trading 0.66 times yearly revenue, 2/3 of yearly revenue. And this is what I'm talking about. Slow and steady wins the race. And when it comes to your long-term portfolio, to really have capital appreciation in your portfolio. These are the types of companies that you're supposed to be investing into. Here at 154, near 52-week highs, I might remind you, the stock, in my opinion, is still tremendously undervalued. And more importantly, moving forward, if the stock does have a massive pullback on a market sell-off, and let's just say it drops down to 131 or 124 a share, obviously the stock is even more of a buy and even more undervalued. And also remember as well, Walmart is its own identity and its own little location over there. And people know to go to Walmart for pretty decently low prices. And of course, the more shitty the economy gets, the more that unemployment rises, the less discretionary funds that the average consumer has, the more money is going to be going into places like Walmart that give customers the best possible deal, right? So they're rewarding the stock over time. And again, if you look at the profit margins, look at this. At the height going into 2020, the company's profit margin was only 2.84%. And now, as you see over the years, pulling back to sub 2.4, now sub 2, sitting here at 1.9%. So the profitability is going down, even though the stock price continues to go higher. And that's why, again, in my opinion, I know this is a little bit of a projection here. And of course, sometimes our minds just want to see what they want to see. And, obviously this pattern cannot come to fruition. I mean, the stock could break out to new highs tomorrow and run up to 156, 157 and just completely wash out my projected pattern here. However, in my opinion, it does seem like it is kind of setting up for not only this ascending wedge getting ready for a pullback, but also it really does look like a perfect cup in the last several weeks coming out of that earnings report. And now having a company like this handle out, and then break out into new 52-week highs as markets apparently, aren't really taking into account all the dismal economic data that's been coming out recently. So that's why a situation like this, if they're going to keep major indices up and you have a brand name company like a Walmart, for it to pull back and consolidate inside of this handle and then have a breakout into the 155s, 156s and hit new 52-week highs, in my opinion, I think that's a no-brainer. But obviously the next couple of days are going to, paint the picture a little more clearly. And if it doesn't happen, or if the company just completely breaks out and pops up to 160 a share, obviously we'll do a quick update video. And, I will give some slight apologies there for this one. But again, if I have something that I potentially see, if I have something, that I think is really lining up here, and again, this is just a projection, but if this comes to fruition, everyone watching this video now definitely stands to make a very nice profit here in the short term, next couple of weeks. Switching over here to stock chart, you can see as well the MACD has been rising. Look at the RSI, though. The stock has been on an absolute tear basically since that earnings report. RSI approaching 70 right here at 68.66. And then, of course, we switch over here to the weekly, and it's right at the top Bollinger Band on the daily as well. Switching over here to the weekly, you can see the RSI is approaching 61. And, of course, the MACD recently pulled back and just bounced off and just continued to go higher. So that's why, it's very interesting. This is almost like that perfect storm that I was talking about, right? You have the RSI on the daily and the weekly approaching that overbought benchmark, so they may proceed to sell off the stock. And then if you switch over here to the actual chart, again, you have the potential cup and handle setting up with the ascending wedge ready for the stock to sell off. So that's why you have multiple patterns indicating that the stock is either going to sell off or remain flat here for the next couple of weeks. And of course, switching over here to stock charts, you see again on the daily RSI up at 68.6. The stock's been on an absolute tear, right? So selling off and going down into that slight downtrend channel to create that handle doesn't sound too crazy when we look at it like this. And then, of course, realigning all of the RSIs and the MACDs when that does happen inside of the next week to 10 days. And then, boom, we have our breakout, and we reclimb the RSI back to 70 plus on the breakout as the stock hits new 52-week highs. That's what I think, in my opinion, is going to happen with a company like Walmart. And remember, the company pays you a dividend to own it. It's a brand name stock, and consistently climbs over the years. So if you want to step in here and you want to tuck away some shares, and it happens to drop a few dollars before it rises back up to these levels, really nothing to lose sleep over. You know you're buying a brand name company that's doing good business. And I'm going to end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Like the video, thumbs up, algorithm, share the video, tell your friends about the video. Helps me get more eyes on the channel. Subscribe to the channel, means a lot to me watching the community grow. And of course, like I always say, I have the personal Discord in the description of every video. So a situation like this right now, as you can see, it's later in the evening. I'm just throwing up a quick video for you guys to just watch, and a little something for you to keep in mind, throw on your watch list for the next couple of days to consider potentially taking a position here in WMT. But, more importantly, if this was during market hours and I just noticed it here, this is why I tell you guys to join the Discord if you can, because like I've been saying, much easier to just type in the Discord, hey, this looks good, or I can, copy and paste the chart real quick and say, oh, look at this setting up, it might break down, it might break up, and obviously you guys would receive that information instantaneously, as opposed to me first making even a 5-10 minute video, and then of course it has to format into standard def and high def, and then they have to do the copyright checks, and that's why sometimes it takes a while to even upload a 5 or 10 minute video clip. And as we know, the market moves extremely fast and waits for no one. So if I see the trade and then I try to record a video, as the video's uploading, the trade might come to fruition, and then obviously by the time you see it, it might be too late. So again, not necessarily forcing you guys into Discord, but for more of my shorter term traders here watching these videos, obviously news moves fast, market moves even faster. So if you're looking for trades like that, you probably should get your ass in the Discord. But that's it. I talk too much. Thanks for stopping by. Hope everyone's doing well. Have a good day.